Hello, my name is Grace, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make apple pie. This recipe is pretty simple and easy, so today I'm going to be walking you through it. First, cube 1 cup of cold butter. In a separate bowl, mix together the half teaspoon of salt and 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Next, cut the butter into the dry mixture of flour and salt. Make sure that the butter stays cold while you do this because the cold butter helps create the flaky crust. This is because when you put the dough in the oven, the little bits of cold butter will melt, which creates layers. This is what your butter and flour mixture should look like after you're finished cutting in the butter. It should be really crumbly and almost sand-like. You should be able to squeeze it between your fingers and it stick together like this. Now we are going to roughly separate the dough in half. Mold the mixture into discs using saran wrap and place it in the fridge for at least 1 hour, but you can leave it overnight to create better layers in the crust. Also, you can still see the small bits of butter inside my discs, and this is fine because we want those little pieces to make our layers. Here is my dough after a couple of hours, and now we're going to roll it out. Take the larger of your doughs and place it on a floured surface so that it doesn't stick. Then, using a rolling pin, roll out your dough into a large circle. We are aiming for about 1/8 of an inch thick, so try your best to roll it out as thinly and evenly while making sure it also will fill up your pan. Now I'm transferring the dough onto my pan. As you can see, the dough is a little bit larger than my pan so that I can go up the sides with a little bit of overhang. To transfer the thin dough, I turn my pan upside down, placing it in the center of my dough. Then, using the saran wrap that I rolled the dough out on, I put my hand underneath the wrap and quickly turn the pan so that the pan was upright with the dough on top of it. So now the dough should look like this. We have a little bit of a rough edge, but that's okay, we can fix that. Using a knife or a scissor, cut off the excess dough from the sides and fold the cut edges over the rims of the pan. It should look similar to this with smooth edges along the rim. Okay, so now we're going to move on to making the filling. The first step is to peel and cut the apples into slices. Try and cut these slices thinly, and after you are done, make sure to dry the slices. Drying the slices will help your pie not be super soggy and soupy because when baked, the apples will release all the moisture and create a soup and a lot of liquid instead of the delicious pie filling that you probably want. You are going to want to cut around 3 to 4 apples, and once you've finished cutting and slicing all of your apples, place them into a large bowl with a mixture of water and lemon juice. This will prevent your apples from turning brown while you season them, as well as giving the apples a little bit of acidity. After a few minutes, take your apples out of the lemon water and make sure to dry them before transferring them to a large bowl. Now we get to season the apples. I like a pretty simple and traditional mixture. I used 1/2 a cup of granulated sugar, 1/2 a cup of packed brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Mix all of these seasonings into the apples until all the apples are evenly coated. Now put these apples into the pie crust and then set aside into the fridge while we roll out the top crust. To roll out the top crust, do the same as the bottom and place it gently over the top of your pie with the filling. Flute the edges, which is essentially sealing the top layer edge to the bottom crust edge by pressing the two edges together to create a seam. Then, using a pointer finger and your thumb, pinch the outside edge of the crust while using your other thumb to press in between to create kind of a raised edge. Then use a knife to cut slits at the center of the crust for ventilation. This allows the steam from the moisture released from the apples to escape so that the crust doesn't bubble. You can also do a lattice technique, which you can do by rolling out the dough just like the bottom, then cutting the circle into strips, then place every other slice of the circle onto the pie, going vertically with the strips parallel to each other. Then fold up every other strip on the pie about halfway. Then, using the strips that are left on the counter, place them going horizontally on the pie. Place the strips that you folded up back and fold up ones that you didn't the first time and place another strip horizontally. Repeat until your pie is covered. Sorry if this is a little bit hard to understand. You can also look up a lattice technique online, and there are plenty of other videos to show you how. I don't have a picture of this unfortunately, but once your top crust is all finished, whip an egg white until foamy. Then brush the egg white over the top of the pie, and this will allow your crust to get that nice golden top, and you can also sprinkle some additional white sugar over the top to add some more crunch and sweetness. Now your pie is ready to bake. Preheat the oven to 375 degrees, and while it's preheating, use aluminum foil to put around the edges of your pie like this. This will help the sides of your crust not to burn while the pie is baking. Bake the pie for about 20 to 30 minutes or until the edges and the top of your pie are golden brown. And ta-da! After you have finished baking the pie and it has cooled down a little bit, you have a delicious apple pie. Enjoy and good luck.